plus 8, or the absolute value of 2k minus 8 can be written as 8 minus 2k. There are some properties of absolute value that you should be able to use. Let's look at these properties now. For all real numbers a and b, the absolute value of a is greater than or equal to 0. And the absolute value of negative a is the same as the absolute value of a. The absolute value of a times the absolute value of b is equal to the absolute value of the product of a and b. And the quotient of absolute values, absolute value of a divided by the absolute value of b, is equal to the absolute value of the quotient of a divided by b, of course, providing b is not equal to 0. And the triangular inequality, the absolute value of the sum of a and b will always be less than or equal to the sum of the absolute value of a and b. Let's look at an example using some of the properties we just talked about. Use the information below to illustrate that property 5, the triangle property, of this following absolute value. Find the absolute value of a plus b, for a is 3 and b is minus 7. So we're going to look at the absolute value of 3 and a negative 7. And we're also going to look at the absolute value of 3 and the absolute value of negative 7. On this side, this becomes the absolute value of negative 4. And over here, this is 3, and this is absolute value of negative 7 is 7. Here I have 4, and here I have 10. Now 4 is in fact less than or equal to 10, so the absolute value of a plus b is in fact less than the absolute value of a plus the absolute value of b. Now it's time for you to try a problem. Pause the video and work out the following problem, and then restart the video to check your work. Use the information below to illustrate property 5 of the absolute value. Find the absolute value of a plus b when a is 2 and b is 12. Let's see how you did. Again, we are going to look at the absolute value of the sum, 2 and 12, and compare that with the absolute value of the individual parts, the absolute value of 2 plus the absolute value of 12. On the left side, this is the absolute value of 14. On the right side, this is 2, and this is 12. On the left side, this is 14, and on the right side, it is 14, and they are equal, and so it upholds our triangle inequality, and since 14 is in fact less than or equal to 14, since it is equal. Now, when evaluating absolute value, you must remember to follow the order of operations. Let's try an example. Let x equal negative 6 and y equal 10, and evaluate the following expression. 2 times the absolute value of x minus the absolute value of 3y divided by the absolute value of the product xy. So we'll make our substitutions. We're going to have 2 times the absolute value of x, which is a negative 6, minus the absolute value of 3 times y, which is 10. We're going to divide this by the absolute value of x, which is negative 6, times y, which is 10. For our first step, we can take the absolute value of negative 6, which is 6, so we end up with 2 times 6, minus, and we have to evaluate the inside here first. We're going to have the absolute value of 30, dividing by, have to do the inside first. We're going to have the absolute value of minus 60. Continuing along, 2 times 6 is 12. We're going to have subtract the absolute value of 30, which is 30. And the denominator, the absolute value of negative 60, is 60. Simplifying further, absolute value of 12 minus 30 is minus 18, divided by 60. And both of these are divisible by 6, so I get minus 3/10 for an answer. Absolute value is also used to find the distance between 2 points on a number line. Let's look at an example. Find the distance between -5 and 8. So we want the absolute value, since we want a distance between 8 and -5. So we have to do the inside first. So this will be 8 and 5, the absolute value of that, or the absolute value of 13, which is 13. By looking at them in the other direction, if I look at the distance from -5, subtracting 8, I will now get the absolute value of -13, which is 13. In this lesson, we've looked at the order of real numbers and absolute value. Be sure to practice plenty of problems in your text to reinforce these knowledge.